daily dose of practical wit and wisdom with a professional educator and trainer, Amazon best-selling author, United States Marine, television and radio host, Paul G. Markle. Each episode will focus on positive and productive ways to strengthen your mindset and help you improve your relationships, career goals, and overall well-being. Please welcome your host, Paul G. Markle.
Here we go again with yet another episode of Morning Mindset. And thank you once more for being a part of it. Let's talk about experts. And the title of today's episode is 10,000 Experts. Thanks to the advent of the internet and YouTube, we now live in an era, sorry about that, Zach, where everyone is an expert. There are thousands upon thousands of self-proclaimed experts online. Your task is to divide the treasure from the trash, the good advice from the garbage advice. But how? Yes, that is the $64,000 question. How do you know whether or not the advice that you're getting via the internet, YouTube, is good advice from somebody who's qualified to dispense it, or is it just a self-proclaimed expert who has an iPhone and they set up a YouTube account? I mean, how much does it cost to set up a YouTube account? Nothing, right? That is the investment. The investment is you get a phone with a camera on it, which is pretty much every one of them, and all of a sudden, you become an online expert in whatever it is that you want to talk about. The fact of the matter is, I think if we're all going to be honest with each other, not everyone who has a YouTube channel that offers advice is a bona fide expert. Some of them aren't. Some of the advice is terrible advice. I've been a professional instructor for, well, I guess going on 30 years or so now. And it is maddening to me. I guess not quite 30 years, but we're getting close. It's maddening to me as somebody who's devoted essentially my entire adult life to education and training and instructing and so forth, to see advice being doled out on the internet that is just bad or dangerous or wrong or short-sighted or amateurish. And I do my best to try and correct it when I encounter it, but I can't do it all. I can't do it for everybody. And the fact is I shouldn't have to. When you are looking for advice, how can you discern the bad advice from the good? Well, if we go back to our research papers, I would hope that when you were in school that you were forced to do research papers. And I know you probably hated it, right? You probably hated doing research for papers and reports on things. I know I did. I didn't like it at all. But one of the things that our teachers made us do way back when, do kids have to do that anymore? I don't even know. Do they do research papers and written reports and oral reports? Maybe not. Maybe they just sit around all day talking about, what gender they think they are, or Earth Day or something. But when I was doing papers, one of the things that was required, if we were going to state a fact in our paper, if we were going to state a fact, we needed to source it a minimum of 2 times. Sometimes it was 3. If we were going to support a theory, we had to support it, or a conclusion. If we were going to support a conclusion, we had to come up with at least 3 separate supporting. Back then, it wasn't, it wasn't anything on the internet. We had to have encyclopedias or books, magazine articles. Magazine articles were pretty low on the totem pole, but books and encyclopedias and so on and so forth, we had to come up with multiple sources to support our conclusion or our assertion. But today, how often do people do that? How often when you're looking for advice or you're looking on the internet for something, you're looking for a better way, or you're looking for advice on how to do blankety blank blank, How often do people find multiple sources? And how do they know if those sources are valid? Well, one of the ways to know if a source is valid or is full of garbage is experience. The more experience and education that you have, the better able you will be to divide the trash from the treasure and the good advice from the garbage. Occasionally, I will go on the radio, or I will get in front of this microphone here, and I will give advice, or I will recommend some type of training. I'll recommend a book. I'll recommend, I make a lot of recommendations. And one of the reasons that I feel confident in making recommendations is because I have essentially been a student of life my whole life. I've been paying attention, I've been studying, I've been reading, I've been taking training. I've taken a ton of training in my field. And now that I've done that, I'm better able to discern the trash from the treasure and the garbage from the good advice. I'll give you for instance. When I was teaching for the U.S. military, one of the things that the military staff came up with is they wanted every student to complete a course review. They wanted them to review the course at the end, and that was one of their things, because fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of military people are going to these business seminars and so forth, and they're like customer surveys. And they said, well, our military students are customers, and we need to survey them. And I said, okay, that's great. But when you're teaching an 18, 19, even 20-year-old, when they go through your class, a lot of these young people, these kids, our class was the first ever training of that sort that they'd ever gotten in their lives. And so we're, by asking them, what did you think about it? It didn't matter. And you say, oh, no, they're customers, they're people. You need to respect their opinions. But their opinions are really immaterial from both directions. If they think it was the greatest course that they've ever taken in their lives, you say, okay, fantastic. You're 18 and a half years old, and this is the greatest fighting, military course you've ever taken. How many have you taken? How many fighting rifle, fighting pistol classes have you taken? Oh, that's right. None. This is the first one. So whether they say it's the best one they've ever had or the worst, the fact is their advice or their opinion is kind of immaterial because they have no experience. Now, if you had somebody who'd been in the military, let's say for 12 years, and had been through numerous courses, numerous different classes and instructions and so forth, and they say, okay, this class, this school was one of the best because blank, then you can respect that because they have something to back it up with. So the more experience you get, the more education you get, the better able you will be to discern the trash from the treasure and the good advice from the garbage. All right? Because, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world of experts. Everybody who has a smartphone and a YouTube account is automatically a self-proclaimed expert. But are they really? I don't know. You have to determine it for yourself. Sorry. It's just like going back to high school and writing a report. If you want to support the conclusion, you got to come up with multiple sources. One source isn't good enough. Yeah. I just thought I would address that today because I actually encountered that in my business life. Again, somebody who really not an expert in the field giving out supposed expert advice. And you have to roll your eyes a little bit, but thank you very much for joining us today. Don't forget the book of the week, or at least the book of the day that I'm going to remind you of is Dad Rules, Wit and Wisdom from a Dad to Whom It May Concern. If you are a dad, if you have a dad, if you know a dad, I think you'll appreciate that book. It's available on Amazon as paperback or as a Kindle edition. I'm Paul Markle. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for spending time with us today. To get show notes, submit a topic request, and for more from your host, Paul G. Markle, visit morningmindsetpodcast.com. That's morningmindsetpodcast.com. Please leave a review for this podcast on your favorite podcast player. We appreciate your time and effort, and we look forward to reading your honest feedback.